Great. Awesome. Welcome. Continue to introduce yourself as we start this webinar, but I'm really excited to get started and talk about some of the biggest nonprofit fundraising do's and don'ts in the space. Um, Hello, my name is Lisa Galprin. I'm the Marketing Communications Manager, and we are very fortunate enough to have a guest speaker with us, Josh, here at Mighty Cause, who is our fundraising development coordinator, and he'll be kind of taking the reins in just a second and going through the biggest do's and don'ts. Just a brief overview of this webinar. I'm going to talk about a couple of housekeeping things, then Josh will get into the do's and don'ts, and then we'll save time at the end for questions. There is a questions tool on your Zoom panel. That's the easiest way for us to see questions. I will be in the chat also double checking if any questions come through there, and we'll throughout the webinar we'll also be answering questions, but we'll have some dedicated time at the end as well. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send a copy of this webinar and the slide deck in a follow-up email sometime tomorrow. All right, just a brief overview of Mighty Cause. For those of you, maybe this is your first Mighty Cause webinar, you're not familiar with us. If you are familiar with us, this will be a little another introduction to us. But we've been in the nonprofit space since 2006. So for a long time, we're one of the biggest technology providers in the country. We provide technology for giving events such as Colorado Gives, Give Minnesota, North Texas Giving Day. Some of you may even participate in some of those giving events. But we're also a year-round fundraising platform that nonprofits across the country utilize for their fundraising efforts. So we offer a lot of different tools and features. Josh will talk about some of them, but some of them include peer-to-peer fundraising, integrations, reporting, etc. All right, I'm going to pass the reins off to Josh, and he can then get into the do's and don'ts.
Hello, everyone. I'm really glad to be with everybody. Today, I will be walking through the do's and don'ts for nonprofits. Basically, what we want to do is walk through some of the things, best practices, or tools that nonprofits are using. We'll be talking about some things that are positives that you should be doing, negatives that maybe you are doing that we can change up, and how easily we can do so, how it's going to impact your nonprofit. A little bit of me and my background. I've been here at Mighty Cause for a few years. I am a leader of our team of the fundraising development coordinators. I've been in this space, specifically the online fundraising space, for the last decade now. So I've been here for a while, have had conversations with hundreds, if probably getting close to thousands of nonprofits over the years, have worked with a number of certified fundraising executives and professionals. Really excited to talk through this here today, answer some of your questions as we go through. So we'll jump right into our first example. The first one, our don't, is do not overlook donor retention. Now, what do I mean by donor retention? Donor retention is the amount of donors that you hold from 1 year to the next. So if we're looking at everybody that donated in 2024 to your nonprofit, your donor retention rate at the end of 2025 will be how many of those donors returned for a follow-up donation. Now, this is something that is really overlooked by a lot of organizations because it can be difficult for them to be able to identify which donors have not retained. They might not have a strategy of how to reach out to them, but it's one that is very costly. As you can see here, it says it costs less to retain an existing donor than to acquire a new one. It is actually 10 times more cost effective to retain a donor than to find someone new to take their place. So 10 times more cost effective is a pretty significant number. What this means is if we are losing these donors, are wasting time, or we are wasting time trying to find someone new to take their place when there's someone that's already demonstrated that they're ready, willing, and able to support our mission. And what it leads to is we are essentially trying to rebuild the wheel year over year, constantly finding someone new to take their place rather than taking the momentum of our donors from last year and building from it. What this also does is it builds predictable and sustainable fundraising streams. So continually bringing in new donors, but losing previous donors, again, that's not growth. That is just kind of me or rebuilding the wheel. We're kind of running in circles. This actually goes beyond just your individual fundraising. When you are applying for grants, often one of the things that they will take a look at when evaluating your status to be a recipient of the grant is your sustainable fundraising streams. Are you able to receive, if you're able to receive those funds, they want to make sure that you are self-sustainable. Having recurring donors and sustained donors year over year, that's something that's going to lead to you being more healthy financially as an organization and will lead to new opportunities like some of those grants. It also creates supporters for your organization. So when we think about people who are giving year over year, those are individuals who are investing in your nonprofit. So when we look at these investors, what they want to do is find new ways to get engaged and involved with you as an organization. So people that are donating year over year, those are people that might become a peer-to-peer fundraiser. Those are people that might be volunteers. Those are individuals that might become ambassadors that spread the message about your organization, or maybe someone who wants to get involved and become a board member. So again, a new donor retention rate is our year over year change. Repeat donor retention rate is going to be, as you can see here, we're going to calculate that, is how many of those individuals are repeating. So this is the individuals who have been with us for a few years. How many have they retained? And then our recapture rate is how many of those that we've lost that we're going to bring back in. Now, the recapture rate is actually very, very low. The average nonprofit in America loses about 45% of their donors from one year to the next. Of those 45% who did not follow up with a donation, within 1 year, their odds of returning have been cut in half. Within 2 years, it's been cut in half again. Within 3 years, there's less than a 5% chance that they will ever donate to your nonprofit again. So we need to stay on top of these individuals. And how we do so is engaging them, reminding them of our mission and the work that we're doing, and inviting them to continue to be a supporter through donations. So what does donor retention entail? First and foremost, it's clear and immediate communication. When a donor donates for the first time, we should be creating a personalized welcome donor journey that keeps donors engaged and invested in our mission. Now, what that might look like, first and foremost, is a thank you. Over 90% of donors say that the thank you they receive is the most important message. Number two, after they've made a donation, received the thank you, that's not the end of the journey. If we're waiting for another year to talk to them about another donation, we're missing out on opportunities. We're not building that relationship. We have to think about these donors through the lens of stewardship, of building a relationship so that they trust us for their contributions. If they don't hear from us or see from us again until next year when we need another donation or when we ask for another donation, now we're building a relationship that's entirely built upon an ask when we're in need. That's not a strong or healthy relationship. So what we should be doing multiple times per month is communicating with our donors. If you're only sending one communication per month, that's not enough as well. We should be sending thank yous. We should be sending updates. This is what your donation is going towards. This is what we're doing with your donations. We should be keeping them up to date on things that are happening within the organization. We should let them know about upcoming projects, about upcoming opportunities to get involved, whether that might be, again, volunteer opportunities, things that are happening in the community, some of our events that are coming up. And then we should send follow-ups for asks throughout the year as well. And again, layering that through context. Your last donation went of X amount went through or went towards X, Y, and Z. We're currently working on this project, and a donation of a specific amount is going to help us with X, Y, and Z. We're being clear, we're being intentional with our communications. And they shouldn't just be ad hoc. We should be building a plan. When a donor comes in, at least once a month, you should look at all of your donors from the last month, identify who those new donors are, and then build out a plan of how we are going to engage them. Recognition is also really important. Again, we're thinking about long-term relationships, so we should find ways to recognize donors and their impact. These can be shout outs in a newsletter. These can be invitations to a special event or maybe a donor appreciation event. These can be a personal email or thank you or call from an executive director or board member, but little things that are going to stand out. Again, we're really thinking about relationships. You also have to think about how many other nonprofits there are out there. There are thousands of nonprofits and a lot that do very similar work to yourselves. Also, the many others in your community. Your donors are hearing from other nonprofits as well. So little things like this are going to help them stand out or make you stand out as an organization that cares about them, that wants to be a rightful steward of your donors. And then personalization as well. Personalize your follow-ups by segmenting your donors. So we can segment our donors using a donor management system to allow us to be able to have different groups and have very targeted engagement with them. So I'm going to show you a couple examples here of how we can do so. So this example is going to be using the Mighty Cause donor management system. So this is what our donor management system looks like. I'm going to look under our reports first and foremost and go to our donor retention reports. So one of the benefits of having a system like this is that you're going to be able to track your donor retention here. So this is automatically going to do so for you. I can run different reports so I can see year to date, last 30 days, last 12 months, when their last donation was, their last donation amount, where they donated towards. I can reach out to them directly. It'll calculate my donor retention as well. I did see a question. There's a way to download all donors across time. There is. It depends on what plan that you're using within the Mighty Cause system. But our supporters tab here, this is going to be all of our donors. If I click here to my donors, this is anyone that has ever made a contribution to our platform or to our organization. This is both online and offline donors. I can click here to download all of my individual donors. So this will pull all of those. This actually brings me over here to our segmentation. Our segmentation here, when we're talking about being a little bit more personalized, is using this system. You can see here, I have, if I scroll down, over 2,700 names that have donated to this organization. But let's say I want to be a little bit more targeted. We can build out these sorts of custom tags. So maybe I want to reach out to everybody who is a donor who also attended the January 2025 training event. That'll pull up this list for me. And now I can actually send a bulk email directly to those individuals. This is going to be a little bit more of a targeted message rather than something that's kind of a blanket message. These are some ways that we're going to be able to start to build out a little bit more targeted messaging with our donors. We can start to pull out things looking at our donations by like our last 30 days. We can see, for example, Dan donating our last 30 days. I've identified him as a recurring donor. This is something that maybe I want to put him into a separate bucket to reach out to about recurring donations. Maybe this is something that if he just for the first time signed up as a recurring donor, I want to highlight in our newsletter. Welcome to Dan Randall, one of our new recurring donors. Maybe you make these sorts of things, a little bit more fun by doing it as a like a group, coming up with a name for it. Our champions, our sustainers, things along those lines. But this is how we can start to build that sort of recognition into our communications with our donors. So I showed you here the Mighty Cause donation retention report. So this is going to be found in not all CRMs, but in a very useful CRM, you're going to have access to something like this, which is going to be help you to be able to calculate and retain those year over year. Another thing that Mighty Cause does is we actually offer an automated messaging tool. One of our automated messaging tools is specifically to target lapsed donors. If you enable this feature, you can use one of our templates that was written by our fundraising professionals, or write your own, but it'll automatically send an email to anybody coming within 30 days of a year since their last donation. So when they're within 30 days of lapsing, an automated targeted email will go just to those individuals, thanking them for their last gift, encouraging them to make a follow-up donation. Gonna take a quick pause here before we jump into our next topic. Any questions regarding donor retention? Again, we'll have some time for questions at the end.
There is just a quick question that came in. Is your software standalone or does it integrate with other software like QuickBooks?
Great question. So our system does have integrations. We have a couple native out-of-the-box integrations, just meaning that you just enable it when you log in. Those are Salesforce, MailChimp, Slack, Google Analytics, HubSpot, and Zapier. That last one I mentioned, Zapier, is a third-party tool, third-party application integration tool. With Zapier, you're able to connect, and I can actually just show this. I'll show it next time. I'll show it on our screen next time that I pull up the donor management system. But basically, Zapier has dozens and dozens and dozens of additional integrations, things like QuickBooks, Constant Contact, Gmail, um, all sorts of different tools. So with Zapier, you're able to connect Mighty Cause to a number of different ones, and our Zapier connection is out of the box.
I think that's the only question I see. So,
All right. So our next thing that we're going to mention or go through is our recurring giving. So recurring giving is something that I very regularly preach to the nonprofits that I work with as being one of the most important aspects of sustainability. Recurring giving, along with donor retention, is going to be one of those things, as I mentioned, that nonprofits are going to take a look at, or grantees are going to take a look at when they are evaluating you for a potential grant. A high recurring giving rate is a sign of a healthy financial organization, one that has a lot of great sustainability. Recurring donors provide sustainable, predictable revenue that you can rely on. So again, rather than trying to, let's say we raised $10,000 last year, but all of it was one-time donations, we're starting from scratch on January 1st. But if $3,000 from that came from recurring giving, now we have opportunities to grow. So we can focus both on our donor retention, but also we know that we have 3,000 in reliable, sustainable donations coming in. Recurring donors, you're hearing the phrase sustainable used by me a lot. Recurring donors are often called sustainers for a reason. The average one-time gift in the US last year was $121. That's a one-time gift. However, the average monthly gift was $25 a month. That is $300 over the course of the year. Now, a lot of those, you'll see a lot of those individuals, maybe they cannot afford to give a $300 one-time gift. And that's why you see that one-time donation be a little bit higher. But if we can give them a message and some context on what a donation can help accomplish, and it'll be very more realistic for them to make a smaller recurring gift that over the course of the year has a larger impact. And again, that's doubled by the fact that we can rely on it next year as well, rather than having to ask that same person for another $121 gift again the next year. Recurring donors are also engaged donors. I mentioned before with donor retention, thinking about them as investors. People who are making recurring gifts are investing in your mission. They're champions of your cause, and they're people that eventually can be built out to major donors. A lot of people think that major donors are something that just they find. People ask me, where can I find major donors? How can I talk to a major donor? Major donors don't typically start off with major donations. They start off with small donations. They build towards recurring gifts, and it's about building a relationship that eventually leads to some of those larger gifts. Again, they're investors in your organization. Maintaining good relationships with our recurring donors requires less effort than it does, again, to go out and find someone new to take their place, just like with donor retention. So, how can we encourage recurring giving? Couple things that we can do here. We are going to, as you can see, these are Mighty Cause donation forms. One of the big things that we can do is offer a suggested donation amount that emphasizes the impact. So you'll see here, you can actually have monthly default or monthly option or giving as your default option. We have suggested amounts. Statistically speaking, suggested amounts do lead to higher donation gifts on average. Additionally, offering a little bit of an impact statement, a little bit of a context on a gift is also shown to drive donation amounts to a higher level. So we can see in this example, $1,000 supplies groceries for 1 month. $500 feeds a family, feeds two families for a week. $100 a month means that every month you're going to provide 3 meals daily for a week for somebody. Again, maybe I can't make a $100 a month gift, but I can do a $25 a month gift. I know that every single month I'm providing a day's worth of meals. Over the course of the year, it's $300. I'm supporting 3 meals daily for a week 3 times. I also mentioned earlier in ways that we can give a little bit of recognition is building out some of these unique names for monthly giving. Champions, heroes, ambassadors, superstars. We can then also, using those custom tags in our donor management system, start to segment our groups. So I can send out messages to my superstars. I can send out messages specifically to my hero groups. This allows us to be a little bit more targeted with our outreach. What we can think about doing, and this is a really successful effort for a lot of organizations, rather than just sitting back and waiting for recurring gifts to come through, or even just passively hoping they come through our website, is building out a targeted recurring giving program. It's not that very complicated. These are the things that we're going to want to do. The ability to allow donors to set up a monthly recurring donation, which we can do on our Mighty Cause website or on our Mighty Cause donation tools. Two, we're going to create a plan. You're going to hear me use the phrase plan a lot today. We shouldn't be ad hoc or ad lib with our fundraising. We should be intentional. We should be thinking about when we're going to be reaching out to people, how we're going to be reaching out to them, targeted, personalized messaging. We're going to be building check-ins throughout the year. We should think about ways to recognize and thank our sustaining donors. Again, a little bit of a monthly shout out. I've seen people have like an attachment in their newsletters where they have a list of all their recurring donors, or giving it a name, like we mentioned, our heroes, our champions, etc., but making it a well-built and well-recognized program. I'm going to show you again, just taking a quick pause here, a couple things that we can do to build out an intentional program in a CRM like Mighty Cause. One of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my donations. I'm going to look at all of my donations for the last 12 months. Now, I mentioned a $25 a month gift is $300 a year. So I'm going to take a look at everybody that gave at least $150 last year and less than $250. So we're seeing some of these gifts here. Clayton, John, Bob, Andy, Mary Jane giving these gifts between that individual records. Well, use an example. Let's say our demo account here is an animal rescue. Let's say $25 feeds a dog for a month, feeds an animal for a month. We'll go with that as our impact statement. I'm going to take these individuals, these 5, and I'm going to send out a targeted message to them. And I'm going to say to each one of them, dear so-and-so, populate their name. Dear Clayton, thank you so much for your gift of $200 in 2024. Your donation in August provided of $200 fed eight animals at our shelter for an entire month. In 2025, we have a number of upcoming challenges. Our shelter is growing. We're taking in more animals than ever, and we need the support of individuals like yourself. A donation of just $25 a month would mean that every month your gift would make another animal's worth of food, a month worth of food possible. Please click here to donate today. A real world example. I worked with an organization who's a shelter for unhoused members of their community. They ran a campaign that was very similar to this. They identified people based on their giving amounts the previous year. They thanked them for that amount. They told them how many nights of stay at their shelter that donation was the equivalent of, and then asked for a specific targeted amount that was smaller per month, but more over the course of the year. So something exactly like this. What they saw at the end of their first year of running this campaign was a 189% increase in online donations. They nearly doubled their donations from the previous year simply by being intentional and targeted about it. And what I think is so really achievable about this is that they were not going out and finding new donors. It wasn't because they went out and found new major donors. It wasn't because they went out and found new people to take their place. They took their existing donors, they thanked them for their gift, they were intentional about it, they asked for a specific amount, and that's how they were able to grow their online donation program and build out a recurring giving program. Any questions here on recurring giving?
Not recurring giving necessarily related a little bit, but just about tagging donors. How do I add tags to donors?
So you're going to be able, it's pretty simple. We can come here, create our tags under our manage tag. You can see they're very customizable. Our team has created probably too many in here. I don't know if we need a Love's Pizza tag, but maybe you do need a Love's Pizza tag in your system. But you're going to be able to do it through your managed here in your managed tags tool. We can also, if I click on an individual, you see we can add their tags here as well. And just to go back, someone I know mentioned integrations. This is where under our integrations tab is where you can find our integrations. As I mentioned, Salesforce, MailChimp, Slack, Google Analytics, HubSpot, and Zapier, all out of the box tools. And Zapier, as I mentioned, has dozens and dozens of integrations, including things like QuickBooks, which I know someone mentioned, Constant Contact, etc. Next thing that I wanted to highlight here was do not make giving difficult. The donation process should be as easy and seamless as possible. If a donor faces friction, they might abandon their gift. So think about this when you're making a purchase. If you are trying to make a purchase and the website seems not very trustworthy, not secure, you're likely to abandon it. If you're on the go and you're trying to pull it up on your phone and it's not mobile friendly, you're likely to abandon it. If there are multiple steps, multiple pages, it's taking too long, you're not likely to see the process through. This did happen to me, where I was looking to make a donation to an organization that I saw. I was walking in my neighborhood. I believe I was picking up food. I passed by a cafe. The cafe mentioned that they're outside that they're also a nonprofit, and they provide meals for members of our community. I They had a QR code. I scanned the QR code to try to make a donation. I walked about 15 minutes home, and the entire walk during the 15 minutes, I could not seem to complete the process to make a donation. It was extremely challenging. I actually reached out to the organization to follow up to let them know it was something that I wanted to make a donation, but it was a really difficult process. These are why it's important for you to have an audit of your own donation experience. Is your donation process clear and concise? Is it optimized for mobile giving? Last year, about two-thirds of online donations were made from a mobile phone. So incredibly important. And are we gathering all the data that we need? Do we see who's giving? how they're giving, why they're giving, what motivated them to give. All of fundraising comes down to knowing who your donors are, how they like to give, and why they give, so we can give them an easy process through their correct channel to make a donation. So what we want to do as a result is optimize our website. Your website is often the first touch point for your potential donors. As I was saying with the online shopping experience, I'm sure that you've had this before. You see something that you like, you go to the website, it does not seem secure, it seems a little questionable, we're going to leave. If your website looks like it's out of date, they might wonder if your nonprofit is still operating, or at what level of an organization you're operating at. If it's not user friendly, if it's not easy to find a call to action to make a donation, they're also likely to leave. I've talked with many organizations where I've had conversations with them, and one of the first things I said was, I went to your website, I couldn't find your donate button. It was difficult to try and identify where I could make a contribution to you. So we want to ensure our donation page is prominently displayed and accessible with clear calls to actions. Can donors easily access key information like your mission, your impact stories, and ways to donate? I'm going to show you an example here. This is one of our nonprofits. This is Dylan's Wings of Change. This is the homepage of their website. When I click to donate, you'll see right here, first of all, donate widget prominently displayed. I see exactly where it is. Modern feel, team bonding, leadership building programs. I know what they do. I can click here to learn about their programs, contact them, click here to donate. When I click donate right onto the donation form, what you're seeing is that I am on their website still. I've not gone to a third-party page. I haven't gone to a PayPal page. I haven't gone to a GoFundMe. I haven't gone to a Squarespace. I'm on their page. It is maintaining their branding, is maintaining their URL. Call to action, donate today. Why am I donating? To help keep their programs accessible to all. It's a reminder of what they do. Thank you for considering a donation to Dylan's Wings of Change. We cannot achieve our mission to foster empathy and build genuine connections between humans without your valuable support. You'll create your own butterfly effect by enabling more students and schools to access our unique Wingman youth leadership programs. So immediately, rather than going to a PayPal page where it's just a generic option to give, where I'm leaving their website, I'm on their website, they're maintaining their branding, they have a clear call to action, they're sharing with me what they do and why my donation is important in making their mission possible. A note on embedded donation forms. An embedded donation form, compared to a landing page where we're leaving your website and going to a landing page, embedded donation forms outperform those by about 34% year over year in terms of donation volume. So you can expect to see 34% more donations at the end of the year if you use a page like this compared to a landing page like a PayPal. Additionally, the conversion rate, that is the amount of people that go to this page that clicked on donate, that will see the process through, is about 3% higher, or sorry, about 3 times higher than the average with a PayPal page. So you can expect about 3 times as many people that click donate to complete the process on a page like this, that is an embedded donation form, rather than a third-party landing page. As I scroll through this page, I see one-time and monthly donations. You can see here, they're highlighting the importance of recurring giving. Preset amounts for me to choose from, impact statements. I see that a $100 a month gift would mean that every single month I'm training a student to partake as a leader. $50 a month means that every month my gift is making possible another student to attend one of these workshops. Personalized giving experiences, dedications on behalf of, in honor of, in memory of, things that build that personal connection with our donors. Custom questions. Here, they're using it as lead generation opportunities. Yes, please contact me about starting the program. Yes, please contact me about booking a mid workshop. Again, if I go back to our donor management tool, I can use those custom tags to pull up my custom question answers and reach out to specific groups. So I can build out a group of everyone that wants to book a program or sponsor one. Multiple payment methods. It is shown that more payment options lead to a higher conversion rate of visitors into donors and more donors and recurring donors. On Mighty Cause, we offer credit card, PayPal, Venmo, Google Pay, as well as ACH transfer, as well as Apple Pay as well. As you can see, really simple process to be able to make a donation. If I wanted to, it's as simple as clicking donate. I want to make a $50 a month donation. Name, payment information, complete the process. Mighty Cost is then going to automatically generate for your customer or for your donor a thank you message, as well as a tax deductible receipt. So these are tools that you're going to want to look into when we're thinking about the optimization of our tools. Is our donation form embedded? Is it streamlined? Is it informative? Does it give recurring donations? Are we making sure that thank yous and tax deductible receipts are going out to every single donation? So some essential components of a good website. Is it easy to navigate and mobile friendly? If it's hard to use or can't be viewed on a smartphone, it's not going to be something that people are going to be able to leverage. We should have an about section. You saw the about us section was very prominent on the Dylan's Wings of Change page. It's important that they understand who you are and what you do and what your mission is. You saw also very prominent a contact us page, which would be very easy for people to get in touch with you if they have a question about their donation. Maybe they want to reach out to you about how to make to mail in a donation. Maybe they want to reach out to you about volunteering. Maybe there's something just about your mission that they want to connect with you about because it could be helpful to something that they've seen in the community. Board members and staff pages. This is just a little bit about transparency, making it super simple for people to understand who makes up your organization. It also just helps put a human touch and face to all of your efforts. As you saw, the donate button always prominently involved. It's very easy to, when I went to their website at any point, to be able to click on that donation page and then a simple, streamlined donation process. And if you noticed on the side of the page, there was the donation form. There was also ways to get involved. Volunteering, recurring giving, fundraising, all those are mentioned on their donation form.
Uh,
Any questions on recurring giving? I saw someone ask, can this be embedded onto a web page? Yes. So that is our donation forms are very simple to embed onto your website, including Wix.
yeah, any website builder like Wix, WordPress, um, GoDaddy, you can easily add the form on there.
Any other questions about recurring giving? Awesome. So the next thing is do not let manual work slow you down. So I've been talking a lot about being intentional with our efforts, whether it's talking about our recurring gift givers, whether it's talking about our donor retention, whether it's following up with people who answered those custom questions on your website, whether it's sending out a thank you, whether it is um, sending out a tax deductible receipt. It's really important with nonprofits that we have a streamlined system. If there's one thing that I always joke, so I work specifically now with small to medium-sized nonprofits. I've worked with every size nonprofit, from the very small to the very, very large. No nonprofit has ever told me that they have too much time on their hands. It's really important that we optimize our time when it comes to our fundraising efforts. As they always say, work smarter, not harder. Working hard doesn't always lead to the best results. We should prioritize efficiency by working smart and using tools that scale. So avoid manual processes that eat up time. Uh, Spreadsheets. I talk to organizations that tell me that they are spending, hours a week, hours a month in their spreadsheets. I ask people to pull up their donor retention, and they say, I really don't know how I would go about doing that. It would probably take me a while. I'd have to dig into things. There are people who are missing out on thank yous because they're not automatically being sent out. These are all little things that add up over time. So, what we should do is leverage technology and automation. Things that are going to be really important for you, as I mentioned, to be a little bit more automated, is we should have a donor management system. We should have a dedicated software piece that is focused on tracking our donors and our donations, and that allows us to be able to have automated messaging and engagement. Donor management software simplifies and automates your donor management. If we're keeping track of everything that's in spreadsheets, it's going to be easier for us to let things slip through the cracks. It's going to take up more time. It's not going to allow us to be able to pull out the sort of segmentation that we've talked about. It's not going to allow us to be able to be intentional and targeted and customizable with our communications. What this means is that it's going to be harder for us to build relationships. How does it help? It's going to save you time. It's going to streamline your operations and provide valuable insights into donor behavior and preferences. We should be able to track and analyze our success and our numbers. We should build targeted donor outreach. We should strengthen meaningful relationships and improve donor engagement. What do donor management tools do? It is a donor database. It's going to store your donor contact details, their donation history, and all of our history of engagement with them. I should be able to pull up very easily within a donor management system, and I'll show you how to do so in just a moment, to see this donor, how long have they been giving to us? Which fundraisers have they given to? When was their last donation? Are they a recurring gift giver? What groups or tags have we put them a part of? Have they answered any of our custom questions? Have we had any personalized conversations with them? When was the last time that we sent them an email? Are they opening our emails? Have they hosted a fundraiser for us? Have they volunteered with us? All that should be really easy to be able to pull up in just a moment. It's not something that should have to dig around to find. Tracking our donations, one-time donations, recurring donations, offline donations, payment methods, individual campaigns. Again, all this data should be at my fingertips because when I'm planning, and I said again, we should be very intentional about our planning for our fundraising every year. If I'm planning out my fundraising strategy for this upcoming year, I want to know what's working, what's not. How many donors are giving online versus offline? I should be able to find that out immediately. Are there any campaigns that were really successful? Are there any campaigns that really weren't working? Are there any messaging or emails that we sent out last year, appeals that did not get responses versus those that were successful? All of our communications, whether it's email, text message, direct mail, segmenting and reporting. So we've talked about categorizing donors based on giving behavior. This is going to allow us to be more targeted and intentional with our fundraising. Here's a really good example. I worked with the Humane Society. They use those custom questions that I showed you on their donation page. Their custom question asked, "What's your favorite animal? Cats or dogs or both?" It's a fun, poll question. It got a lot of engagement. People are donating to a Humane Society. They answered. But how they used it strategically was using those custom tags that I showed you. They were able to pull up everybody that answered dog. They then built out a group of dog donors, which means if there were emergency funds to maybe rescue a dog from out of state that they wanted to bring into a foster program, and they needed $500 to be able to do so, they could pull up their dog donors and immediately message them because they know that those are the most highly motivated individuals to do so right away. If they were looking for volunteers for a cat fostering program, pulling up your cat donors is a great way to be able to do so and reach out to them right away. Automation and workflows. Automated thank yous. I mentioned Mighty Cause has an automated email tool as well that allows you to be able to send out some certain targeted messages, putting in follow-ups, putting in reminders, putting in notes, and having a system that integrates with multiple tools. So I show you here. I will show you here in the Mighty Cause system. Just
Josh,
going back towards.
as you're
Oh, I'm
going in,
sorry.
oh no, I was just gonna say, as you're going into the system, there was just a question that came in about reporting, about looking at donation amounts and the types of reports
Yeah.
available.
So under our reports tab, you'll see here, these are some of our pre-built reports. All donations, recurring donations, or offline donations, our donor retention, and each of our disbursements. Here under my donations, I can start to pull them out by different time periods, donation types, their campaigns, their payment method, as well as donation amounts. If I actually go over to our overview page as well, you'll see here this is going to provide us with pretty robust stats. It's a pretty long list of ones that I can pull up, giving us further insights to help us understand what's working, what's not. On a supporters tab, as I mentioned here before, we have that ability for strategic segmentation. If I click on a contact profile, like Stars, I see that Star has been a supporter since 2017. We have a coming on 8-year relationship. She's raised over $1,500 for the organization. These are the tags. She's a special volunteer, adoption volunteer, preferred dogs, board member, contact information, activity logs. We can record meetings, events, calls, emails, to-dos, abouts, other. Her history of volunteer opportunities are tracked right here. This is done through the Opportunities tab under Fundraising Tools. All of her donations tracked right here. If she hosted a peer-to-peer fundraiser, that would be tracked here. Any emails that we would be sending her, that would be tracked here. This is giving us a really robust picture of who our donors are. So when someone says, Star just called about about wanting to volunteer at our upcoming event, you can pull this up and we have a really robust picture of who Star is. And this allows us to be more intentional when we're building out our tags and our groups and our roles, rather than combing through spreadsheets. I mentioned some of these integrations with Mighty Cause. I think the one that I forgot to mention here is Eventbrite. We also do integrate with Eventbrite for any of your event registration pieces. Do not underestimate peer-to-peer. So peer-to-peer fundraising, if you're unfamiliar, one of the most effective ways to increase your donor base and reach new audiences. Peer-to-peer is when someone creates a page on your behalf in order to reach out to their own personal network for donations. Reaching out to people who are recurring donors, your volunteers, your board members, and asking them to very easily set up a peer-to-peer campaign will allow them to build out a personalized experience. The average person is 3 times more likely to donate to a nonprofit if they're asked by a person they know rather than the organization itself. And the average donor can raise 10 times more with a peer-to-peer campaign than they can through their own donations. Peer-to-peer campaigns can be done through charity walks, marathons, birthday fundraisers. You see those on Facebook. One of the big differences between a Facebook fundraiser, however, and a more intentional peer-to-peer campaign using a tool like a Mighty Cause, just an FYI, if you're not familiar, is that Facebook fundraisers nonprofits do not see the names of the donors. They receive those by check, typically about 6 to 8 weeks after the birthday fundraiser. They do not receive contact information. Whereas with a Mighty Cause fundraiser, if I reach out to my personal network and receive 20 donations, all 20 names and emails will be captured in the donor management system, making introductions for warm follow-ups and relationship building. We can have those as campaign add-ons. individual giving events like a Giving Tuesday, or some of our giving events like Colorado Gives, for example. And I highly recommend getting board members to be involved as well. Board members should be making a commitment to their fundraising efforts, both through their own donations and through things like a peer-to-peer fundraiser. Just to show you a really quick peer-to-peer fundraiser, how we can do so. We make this very simple for your nonprofit or for your supporters. I would click fundraise, get started. You can provide them with a template. And what this is going to do is give me what is essentially a ready-made page. I can just add my name. I can add my own photo. I can customize my goal. But you see, they gave me a stock photo. They gave me about section. I can add it there, any information if I like. Once it's live, I can share this page. These are just one-click share options. You can also copy and paste this link into anywhere else, like LinkedIn or Instagram. What this might look like at the end. This is an example of an active campaign. And this is Caleb's fundraiser page. He used the template that they provided, added his own photo, edited his goals. He raised more funds. Not only did he raise $17,000, but again, all 134 people who donated to his page are now in the donor management system. So he's introduced the org to 134 new donors. Empower your supporters. Make it easy. Giving them the right tools and messaging to fundraise effectively. That means having a streamlined donation page. That means having ways for them to get involved, whether it's volunteering or peer-to-peer, making it easy for them to be able to contact and get in touch with you, helping them understand how they can make an impact. That one thing that always really stands with me is that individual donors want to see themselves as the ones making an impact, and you as an organization are the vehicle for which we're doing so. So help them just understand that. Help them share in the accomplishments of your mission. Help them feel like they're a part of it as well. I mentioned having the templates makes it super simple. They can customize their page. You also have the opportunity to review it on the back end so the page doesn't go live until you give it the thumbs up. But you saw it took me just a couple seconds to create that peer-to-peer page. This is an example of what one might look like. You can make it a competition, like a small gift card, t-shirt, something for whoever raises the most funds. This is another great organization, the Ben Carlson Foundation. They do a paddle-thon every year. Make it very simple for people to be able to get involved and engaged.
Yeah, we're at the end and we'll go through some questions, but just some next steps. As I mentioned, this webinar is being recorded, so we will send a follow-up email with a copy of this webinar and the slide deck. After this webinar is finished, there is going to be a survey that pops up. If you're interested in getting in touch with us, please let us know. And then as well, we have two webinars coming up within the next 2 months. One is about the grant cycle. If you're interested in grant writing, we're going to have a guest speaker, Elevate, which is a grant writing service. They're going to be doing a guest webinar for us, and then we're going to have a spring fundraising webinar in April. All right, so we had two questions come in as well. We had a poll going throughout about biggest fundraising challenge, and I think these two questions go to some of the answers that I've pulled up that some people have shared. So the two questions, in your opinion, who is the person within a small nonprofit that would be managing probably what everything we've talked about? Who should be responsible? And for orgs with no or very limited fundraising staff, what do you recommend is the most powerful form of outreach, monthly newsletter, personal calls, or letters? And this was a common actual challenge that a lot of people talked about in the responses, which is needing volunteers, not having enough staff. Um,
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, uh, as I mentioned, I've worked with every size organizations from very small, all volunteer orgs, all the way through. I've worked with presidential library foundations as well. And as I mentioned, the most common theme for everybody is time. Time is the biggest constraint. The point of these tools is not to be spending too much time on them. Really, what using a tool like a Mighty Cause or any sort of CRM is going to do is actually put time back in your day. The average organization is using Mighty Cause maybe an hour a week. So it is not something that people are living in and out of. It is not one of those tools. When you look at those very, very large organizations, they use very large and complex CRMs and tools, and they have dedicated teams and staff where they're just living in their CRM day in and day out. That is not what Mighty Cause is for. Really, this sort of tool is meant for you to about, just once a week, take a look at your donations, see what came through. You saw how easy it is to pull out that sort of data. Pull up your donations, see who's donated. Are there any new donors? Were there any donors who are recurring donations that are no longer following through? Is there anybody that's lapsed in the past week? Is there anything, or if we're running a campaign, maybe we are a little bit more active with it. Like if we have a Giving Tuesday campaign, we might be using Mighty Cause a little bit more then. But overall, it's something just to help aid you with your other efforts, not something for you to be living in and out of every day. A very large percentage of the organizations that we work with are volunteer, or their staff is extremely minimal, meaning just a handful of people. A lot of the organizations that we have here, they have maybe one person who works on donate on fundraising, if that. Not a lot of teams that have big donor staffs. So it's not something that really is going to, if you're looking at a tool like this, it's not something that you need to hire somebody to bring in. It's certainly not something you need to bring in a consultant. I don't even really think that it really is something that needs to be a volunteer. Typically, it's a board member. Typically, it's an executive director, or maybe there is a one person development staff, a development coordinator or so. And really, they're in this tool about roughly an hour a week just to stay on top of their data. Again, making sure things aren't slipping through the cracks and following through on their fundraising plans.
Yeah, and just for the people that in their challenges talked about not having enough volunteers, etc. Just want to call out kind of two different resources. One is I highly recommend volunteermatch.org. I believe it's .org. That is how I found an organization that I volunteer with. It's a great place to kind of add what positions or what help that you need. Also, your local universities, high schools, or colleges, if there's a certain type of role, maybe that's marketing, reaching out to them and asking them just to maybe share an email blurb that you're looking for volunteers with a certain skill set, etc. You'd be surprised how many people are interested in really putting into work, especially for a good cause, a skill set that they have. Um, and yeah, as Josh kind of spoke to this, but we talked a lot about a lot of different components throughout this webinar, and it may seem overwhelming for some organizations, especially if you're one person and you don't have to take an approach of taking everything all at
Yes.
once.
I always like to use the phrase crawl, walk, run. We're not taking on everything all at once. But this is meant to help you be more, strategic and more intentional with your efforts. So, starting off with just building out a plan. And then, to follow up on that plan is like, okay, twice a month, I'm going to check on my donor retention. and I'm just going to look at my donor retention report and I'm going to see if there's anybody that I need to reach out to. Once a month, I'm going to reach out to people about recurring giving. I might identify someone that gave a certain amount, and that's someone that I want to reach out to. Um, Little things like that are a good way to start to utilize a tool and again, be more strategic with your fundraising time.
Yeah. And I think that's why in general it's always good to have what are your overall goals as a nonprofit? What's your goal for this year? Because that can help really drive down what are the things you're going to prioritize, what are the things that you want to focus on, or what are the things you need outside help on that you're going to ask for outside help with. Are there any other questions that come up? I know we're at the end. I don't see any others. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Hope this webinar was helpful. Um, Again, there will be a survey that comes up. If there's also any other topics that you're interested in learning in, please let us know because that helps us decide what to cover, what to bring in guest speakers on, etc. So we will send a follow-up email as mentioned. And thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest
And
of
if
your
you're interested in speaking to a member of my team, there is an opportunity to fill out a demo request after the fact, or you can find it on our website. And really, it'll just be a conversation with you and a member of our team. Where they'll get to learn more about you and your organization, your fundraising goals, and chat about if there's something we can do to be of help.